Welcome to Stanley, Scuba, Sailing, and Adventures. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. This is Belize, Lighthouse Atoll, dive site, Lighthouse Wall. This dive site features many large coral heads with sand chutes leading to a deep wall. The depth on the top of the coral heads ranges from 30 to 40 feet, with the sand chutes between ranging from 40 to 60 feet. This puts the coral heads between 10 to 30 feet tall. We entered the water just over the wall, and I was immediately greeted by this grouper. He came over close enough to look me in the eye, but then I guess he decided he'd had enough. The sky was pretty clear when we entered, so we had a good deal of sunlight. I'd say the visibility was well over 100 feet. This video was shot over the course of 2 dives on the afternoon of November 30th. The first dive started at 2 o'clock and lasted for approximately 54 minutes. I had a maximum depth of 74 feet and an average depth of 44 feet. The second dive started around 4:30 and lasted about 47 minutes. On that second dive, I had a maximum depth of 64 feet and an average depth of 37 feet. The air temperature was about 85 degrees and the water temp just about 80. Fahrenheit, of course. By this point, we were halfway through our 3rd day of diving and everyone was pretty settled. Most of us were averaging 4 to 5 dives a day. It was a great dive site with a lot of coral, marine life, and geological formations to enjoy. Some of the sand chutes included complete arches like this one. I enjoy swimming through the sand chutes and arches, and thought I'd give this one a go, but as I got a little closer, I decided it was a little tight, and I didn't want to bump the walls and disturb anything. We're just deep enough here that the sunlight doesn't really light up the wall. You can see as my camera lights get closer how the colors really pop. With just over 100 minutes on this dive site, I didn't really feel that I had enough time to explore it completely. I know other folks like to see different sites, but I'd be happy to spend a couple days on one particular dive site and really explore it in detail. I didn't see any of the crew carrying spear guns on this dive site and wondered why. I saw quite a few lionfish and they all seemed fairly large. Here's the first one I came across. I'm always interested in trying to get a face-forward shot of the lionfish. They do have interesting looking faces, but they always seem to hide them, and I guess that's just part of their defense mechanism. You'll see as I try to get closer, he always has his face turned away and those dorsal barbs start to move back and forth. I guess he's preparing for self-defense as I get closer. See those dorsal spines, they begin to move back and forth, side to side. It's interesting, they almost seem to move in like a wave-like formation. This sandy chute was plenty big enough for me to fit through, and I decided to shoot a little video as I swam up. See some of the silt in the water. That's not from another diver. There was no other diver in front of me. That's from the tide changing as this leads up into a very shallow area. Beyond where the boat is pinned, it gets up to just a few feet in depth, but the tide was going out, so the water was pulling some of the sand and silt through the chute as I was swimming up. Not much of a current as far as swimming, but enough to move some of the sand and silt. Again, here you can see how the light really makes that color pop on the wall. Here's the top of that chute I just came through. Down below it was wide enough, but I'll go back over the top so you can get a better idea of what it looks like. You can see some of the other divers' air bubbles out there over the edge of the wall. Here another diver is inside of one of the chutes. You can see his light as he's coming out. Look at all those little fish and a school. I've heard those referred to as a bait ball. I ended up going into that chute after him and getting some great pictures of a giant barracuda that was in there and wouldn't move to let me pass. Got very, very close-ups of his face, but unfortunately the GoPro had stopped at that point and frozen up again. It was continually overheating on this trip. It was very challenging. I'd never had that problem before with the GoPro. I ended up shooting a lot more photos on this dive than I usually do, probably because of the GoPro challenges. I had some fun with this little guy. I actually set my camera right in front of him in the sand and got some very close-ups of his eyes. I almost always edit and put my videos together in chronological order. Here we've just entered the water for the second dive, and it was quite cloudy and overcast when we entered. It almost looks dark. I really enjoy diving in Belize, but as I probably mentioned in one of my other videos, I think the clouds and the wind really impact the visibility. There's so much to explore on every dive site. If you take the time to explore really closely in any little area, you almost always find something interesting. Here I'm trying to get in a little deeper into this crevice or partial sand chute. It really didn't go all the way through. But as I got in closer, I found a little lionfish in here. I couldn't get any closer to him. He was tucked in pretty tight. No sooner did I see him and turn around, I quickly found another one on the wall. Still determined to try and get that elusive lionfish face shot, I decided to try and get a little closer to this one. Again, look how he's facing in, and see those barbs on his dorsal fin? They kind of move independently back and forth like a wave. He wasn't having any of it. I wasn't going to see his face. The overcast sky provided for some great shots of the geological formations. Here I found another deep sand chute to swim through. Notice how the silt is slowed down? I think we're at slack tide now, and the silt is really slowed down, and there's not much of a current at all coming through the chute. There's one of those bait balls. I like these shots, and it gives me the opportunity to really focus on my buoyancy and get as close to the sand as I can without kicking up any silt. You can always turn around and look and see how you've done. Here's a look back toward the chute that we just came through. And I found yet another lionfish. I think this was the smallest of all the lionfish I found on this dive. As I was nearing the end of the second dive, the clouds started to break, and you can see the sun here is coming out and things are a little lighter. Again, this dive site was called Lighthouse Wall, and it's on the Lighthouse Atoll here in Belize. At this point, the sun is really shining again, and the fish have all kind of come back out of their hiding places. It's interesting to see how the cloud cover affects the fish. Anyway, it was a great dive site, and I really enjoyed my time on Lighthouse Reef. Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment.